Paul Newman's wife is completely unrecognizable. Paul Newman was an exceptional figure in many aspects. He had dashing good looks, undeniable talent as an actor, and a vast array of pursuits such as business ventures, political activism, racing cars, and philanthropy. Even though he's left us with untold secrets about his life that will forever remain unknown, throughout it all, Paul Newman lived each day to the fullest until 2008, when he sadly passed away at 83 years old. Uncover the secrets of Paul's remarkable journey. Come and experience his captivating allure for yourself. His first marriage didn't end happily ever after. Before Paul Newman's rise to fame in Hollywood, he and his wife, Jackie Witt, were married for 50 blissful years. Their marital bond was ever stronger, and they raised 3 children, with Jackie wholeheartedly supporting her husband's aspirations of becoming an actor. In 1953, Newman encountered Joanne Woodward, and his marriage started to become unsteady. Initially, Woodward was hesitant to disrupt the bond between Newman and his wife. However, their divorce became inevitable in 1958. An interesting couple. Newman and Witt's divorce in 1958 stirred up a huge story. Only months later, Woodward and Newman tied the knot. Although many speculated that the couple had started their affair while Newman was still married to Witt, they denied all allegations of cheating. Due to this dynamic contrast between them, with Woodward from a conservative Southern family background and Newman being notoriously wild-natured, folks were fascinated by their relationship. Though rumors lingered about his loyalty during marriage, he stayed devoted to his wife for 50 years until her passing recently. Rumors circulated constantly. Although Newman claimed that he had been faithful to Woodward for the decades they were married, rumors still spread. In Darwin Porter's biography about the actor, he claimed that Newman was not as truthful as he seemed. Porter even went so far as to claim that Newman had romantic relationships with some of the biggest names in Hollywood at the time. After speaking with many of Newman's closest friends and colleagues, Porter decided that Newman had secrets involving Marilyn Monroe, Grace Kelly, John Derrick, Judy Garland, and Marlon Brando. Fans loved his relationship with his wife. Paul Newman charmed audiences with his genuine love for his wife, proving to the world that one can be successful and attractive without veering astray from their marital vows. When asked what it would take to lure him away from her, he simply replied, "Why go out for hamburger when you've got steak at home?" His fans were ecstatic. Here was a man who valued loyalty above all else. In comes Nancy Bacon. Not only did Darwin Porter make the suggestion that Newman could be conducting some dubious activities, but Nancy Bacon soon backed him up by divulging her own experience with him. She maintained that they'd been in a passionate affair for over 12 months during the 70s, and even joked, "Paul may not go out for a hamburger, but he sure goes out for bacon." The two were engaged in what she referred to as the worst-kept secret in Hollywood. His second marriage was hard on his children. Despite the lack of solid proof that Newman was disloyal to Woodward, his second marriage caused numerous issues with his children, especially Scott. Having witnessed his dad make it big in Hollywood, Scott chose to become an actor too, although he seemed desperate to separate himself from him, who departed from their mother for another woman. Scott had a troubled life. After Paul left Scott's mother in 1958, young Scott started to misbehave and was expelled from several private schools. He eventually quit college during the early 1960s so that he could work as a stuntman for his father without accepting any financial assistance or guidance. His proud declaration of, "I'm not taking any acting help from my father," proved how determined he was to make it on his own merit. Sadly, this is when bad habits began creeping up on him, and trouble with authorities occurred more regularly, culminating in a catastrophic motorcycle accident which resulted in death due to an overdose of various substances. It all happened in 1978. Newman felt extreme guilt. The passing of his son had a deep emotional and mental toll on Newman. He felt an immense sense of guilt, knowing that he wasn't present to support him when it mattered most. When speaking to his good friend A.E. Hotchner about the tragedy, Newman shared, "There's nothing you can say that will repair my guilt about Scott. It will be with me as long as I live." Though no words could ease the pain he was bearing, Newman found some solace in finding a purpose for this sorrow, to help others go through something similar yet come out stronger than ever before. He established the Scott Newman Center. In 1980, Newman established the Scott Newman Center to educate teachers and health professionals on how to spread awareness of substance abuse among adolescents. His ultimate goal was that other parents would not have to go through the sorrow of losing a child due to addiction or misuse. To further his mission, he co-founded Rowdy Ridge Gang Camp with help from the Scott Newman Center. During the summer, a series of camps were put in place to help children and their families who have gone through substance abuse or are currently recovering from it. His marriage remained strong. Rumors flew that Paul Newman was not the man he claimed to be and had various mistresses on the side. Yet his marriage with Joanne Woodward remained strong. Despite any speculation as to its validity, she loved him fiercely nonetheless. Their relationship seemed impervious even in comparison to other couples of Hollywood fame, thriving well into their later years together, where Newman referred to her effect on him like they were high school sweethearts all over again. The couple stayed married until 2008, when death finally separated them after nearly half a century of marital bliss. He had a disability. With the intention of joining the armed forces, Newman enlisted during World War II to become a naval fighter pilot. Unfortunately, his dreams were abruptly put on hold when it was found he couldn't participate due to color blindness. As an alternative, in 1944, he took part and flourished in boot camp training as a radioman and rear gunner, which earned him aviation radioman third-class status at its completion. Later that same year, Newman became the turret gunner aboard an Avenger torpedo bomber while serving on board USS Bunker Hill during 1945's Battle of Okinawa. His first film embarrassed him. Newman's start in the film industry was a 1954 biblical drama entitled The Silver Chalice. In this movie, he played a Greek artist appointed with fashioning the cup of Christ in silver and donning toga-style garb. This flick turned out to be an absolute failure at the box office, despite Newman being nominated for a Golden Globe Award for his acting. Displeased with both the picture and himself, Paul called it the worst motion picture produced in the 1950s. When it aired on television, again 12 years later, he actually took out an ad within one newspaper asking individuals not to watch it, as he felt so embarrassed about its quality. He was an excellent musician. Although his talent for acting is unparalleled, not many know that he was also a masterful musician. His prowess in jazz and blues piano earned him the chance to play alongside some of the greats, such as Sammy Davis Jr. and Dean Martin. But it doesn't end there. He was trained by Billy Byers on how to play trombone for Paris Blues, and expertly played piano during Tom Hanks' scene in Road to Perdition, truly showing off his immense musical talents. He had a passion for auto racing. After a starring role in the 1969 auto racing film, Winning, Paul Newman found an unexpected grace and passion for motorsport. With his newfound love of the sport, he began to immerse himself in its history by hosting a television special, Behind the Wheel, which aired in 1971. In 1972, Mr. Newman took things one step further by participating as a professional racer at Thompson International Speedway, where he raced under the alias of P.L. Newman, marking his first venture into competitive driving. He was a skilled driver. After discovering his love for racing, Paul Newman went on to compete in Sports Car Club of America, SCCA, eventually winning 4 championships and establishing the Newman-Freeman Racing Team in 1976. His impressive career culminates with an unforgettable second-place finish at the 1979 24 Hours of Le Mans. Finally, after a remarkable 17 years as a driver, he retired from racing in 2007. In honor of his tremendous contribution to motorsport, Newman was posthumously inducted into SCCA's Hall of Fame, located in Las Vegas, Nevada, during 2009. he liked to keep it casual. Newman was well known for his affinity for comfort, often seen in a classic V-neck sweater and trousers with tennis shoes. Understandably so, he spent most of his working days dressed up in costume. Despite this casual dress code, however, Newman always managed to appear effortlessly stylish, even on his 75th birthday, when he ceremoniously burned off the last trace of formal clothes from his wardrobe with an emphatic declaration that he was through with formality. Joanne and the children are keeping his legacy alive. After being widowed in 2008, Woodman made her home in Westport, Connecticut, the same place where she and Paul had raised their children. In this picture, with her youngest daughter, Claire, at the celebration of Paul Newman's dream to benefit the Serious Fun Children's Network, Woodward is living embodiment of strength and resilience. Founded by Newman himself in 1988 and still managed today by his family, the Serious Fun Children's Network provides much-needed assistance for kids struggling with serious illnesses. Moreover, under Claire's hard work and dedication to continuing Paul's legacy, the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp has successfully provided summer camp experience for families enduring hardships due to health issues. He was an entrepreneur. Not only was Paul Newman a celebrated actor and race car driver, but he also demonstrated his entrepreneurial spirit. While concocting a salad dressing recipe with A.E. Hotchner, they discovered something scrumptious that eventually led to the creation of Newman's Own. This brand quickly became wildly popular and continues to be successful today, all while honoring Newman's inspiring commitment to donate all profits from the company towards charitable causes around the world. He had success on Broadway. Despite his lack of enthusiasm for acting after the success of The Silver Chalice, Newman chose to shift mediums and take on a role in Broadway play The Desperate Hours. His performance was so remarkable that it took home 2 Tony Awards for Best Play and Best Production in 1955. Critics believe he single-handedly propelled the show's massive success, proving that no challenge should go unaddressed, and when you passionately pursue something, great things can happen. There's a day named for him. In the 1970s, Newman Day was established in honor of Paul Newman at Bates College and other universities across America. From midnight to 11:59 p.m. on April 24th, students attempt to drink 24 beers in an effort to replicate a joke by Newman that humorously implied such connection between time and beer. Despite this tradition being celebrated annually, it goes against the aims of the Scott Newman Center, which is devoted to preventing drug abuse through education initiatives. Safe to say that Paul himself disapproves of this holiday. It took him a long time to win an Oscar. Of all the actors of his era, Paul Newman was undeniably one of the greatest. His legendary performances in masterpieces such as Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Long Hot Summer, Cool Hand Luke, and Slapshot have stood out for decades. Despite being highly acclaimed by audiences worldwide, he lacked recognition from the Academy Awards until 1986, when he won Best Actor for The Color of Money, capping off a career that saw 6 Oscar nominations over time. He saved a liberal magazine from going under. Not only was Paul Newman a political activist, but he also made an impactful action to save The Nation magazine, a liberal political weekly, from going out of business. In 1995, Newman and his college colleague E.L. Doctorow joined forces with other investors in order to purchase the rapidly declining publication. Due to their investment, they were able to keep it afloat and even wrote a column for the mag from time to time. When more money was urgently needed again later on down the line, Newman happily provided what was necessary once more so that it could remain operational. As Victor Navsky put it, he helped this magazine when we needed it the most. He was the physical inspiration for the Green Lantern. It comes as no shock that the renowned Paul Newman served as the muse behind iconic superhero Hal Jordan. After all, artist Gil Kane had once been neighbors with him and wanted to reflect his own vision of a handsome and suave character in creating Green Lantern's alter ego. While it's believed that other figures were also drawn upon from forming characters for his universe, none was more fitting than Newman himself. His final role was his most successful. In 2006, only 2 years before his passing due to lung cancer, Newman lent his voice to the highly successful Pixar film Cars. Unbeknownst at the time of its release, it turned out to be the most profitable movie in all of Newman's career. 9 years after he passed away in 2008, Doc Hudson was brought back onto our screens with throwaway recordings from the first Car films used in production of 2017's Cars 3, giving us an unforgettable reminder that even though we may have lost him physically on Earth 9 years prior, Paul Newman will never truly leave us and will live forever through his iconic characters like Doc Hudson. He participated in a TV debate. In the 1950s, Paul Newman and Charlton Heston formed a strong bond over their shared political views as liberal Democrats and civil rights activists. Years later, however, Charlton shockingly shifted his beliefs to become an ardent conservative, going against most of what he had previously advocated for. In 1982, icons Charlton Heston and Paul Newman engaged in a heated televised debate regarding the then controversial nuclear arms program. Though many believe that Heston was victorious, Newman quipped, "I've done better and I've done worse, but it was better than not doing anything at all." The impact of this discourse is still felt today, making for an incredible exchange between two influential figures. He took over roles meant for James Dean. In 1954, Newman and James Dean were both contenders for the roles of Aaron Trask and his twin brother, Cal, in Jan Millie's East of Eden. Unfortunately, Richard Davalos was ultimately awarded the part instead of Newman, but shortly afterwards he had a chance to take one or two more parts from Dean himself. When it became apparent that tragically Dean would not be able to star as Billy the Kid in The Left-Handed Gun, nor Rocky Graziano in Somebody Up There Likes Me due to his untimely passing, these opportunities rose again for Paul Newman, who filled those voids with remarkable success. He was troubled by his blue eyes. Paul Newman's captivatingly blue eyes were indeed something to behold and garnered him attention everywhere he went. Although many people wished they had the same dazzling shade, Paul viewed it more of a blessing than a curse, wearing sunglasses often to conceal them. He felt that others either liked him unconditionally or just for his good looks rather than merit. Once jokingly remarking on his future tombstone would read, "Here lies Paul Newman, who died an unsuccessful man due to his eyes fading into brown." He was a philanthropist through and through. With his food line, Newman's Own, having donated over $400 million to global charities since 2014, and founding the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp for seriously ill children in Ashford, Connecticut, it's clear that Paul Newman was devoted to helping others. His commitment hardly ended here. He also contributed a generous $10 million towards a scholarship fund at Kenyon College, as well as co-founding the Committee Engagement Corporate Philanthropy, which aimed to elevate levels of corporate philanthropy worldwide. It came as no surprise when Mr. Newman was honored with the title Most Generous Celebrity back in 2008, after donating an estimated total of $20 million throughout this single year. He was often mistaken for Marlon Brando early in his career. As Paul Newman made his debut in the movie industry, he was often mistaken for Marlon Brando. This scenario wasn't too far-fetched considering they were similar in age, had blue eyes, and both shared an undeniable attractive quality that complemented their profession as actors. Even the Los Angeles Examiner commented on this, saying, "Paul Newman will inevitably be compared to Marlon Brando because of his striking resemblance to the actor." Surprisingly enough, this confusion didn't seem to bother Mr. Newman, who claimed he signed hundreds of autographs from people mistaking him for Brando. He wanted more of a challenge religiously. Growing up in an opulent Cleveland suburb, Newman was not particularly religious as a child or later on, although he maintained connections to his Jewish roots instead of affiliating with his Slovak mother's Christian Scientist faith. When asked why, the actor replied, "It just felt like more of a challenge." His grandparents were Simon Newman from Hungary and Hannah Cohn from Poland, while his father descended from Ashkenazi Jews. On the other hand, his mother hailed from an ethnic Slovak family who resided within the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He was known as a prankster. For years, Newman and his best mate, Robert Redford, were engaged in a never-ending prank war. To celebrate the former's 50th birthday, Redford showed up to Newman's doorstep with nothing but the remains of an old Porsche. In return for this outrageous present, Newman sent over an entire crate containing a melted version of that very same car, cube-shaped. As if that weren't enough already, Redford then decided to turn it into a heinous statue, which he had installed right in the center of Newman Garden. He was a door-to-door salesman. Before he achieved Hollywood fame, Paul Newman had to take on many mundane jobs. During his studies at the Yale MFA program, one of those occupations happened to be door-to-door encyclopedia salesman. And it wasn't too difficult for him. After all, with good looks like his, it's no surprise that he was able to charm people into buying what he was selling. His experience as an encyclopedia salesman certainly proved valuable in propelling him towards the success we know today. He turned down Dirty Harry. Warner Brothers was searching for the perfect actor to fill the role of Dirty Harry, until Clint Eastwood stepped in and changed everything. Surprisingly, Paul Newman and Burt Lancaster were both approached but turned down the part due to its right-wing content. It seemed too extreme for their liking. In actuality, it was Newman who recommended Eastwood as a replacement choice, something that we can all be grateful for today. He pursued a homosexual role. At some point, Newman had acquired the film rights to Patricia Nell Warren's 1974 novel entitled The Frontrunner. The book depicted a love story between a college track coach and a star athlete. Intended to portray the role of the coach himself, he became extremely aggravated when executives suggested changing its climax so that the protagonist ended up marrying another woman instead, an idea completely revolting to him, which consequently caused him to walk away from this project forevermore. One of his favorite roles almost went to Al Pacino. Noted actor Paul Newman considered the 1978 comedy Slapshot, in which he starred as a minor league hockey player, to be one of his favorite films. His athleticism and willingness to do stunts made him an ideal fit for the role. Prior to casting Newman, director George Roy Hill approached Al Pacino, who expressed interest in playing the part. However, Hill's main query was whether Pacino could skate. "Can he skate?" is all he asked, recalled Pacino about their conversation. He's Jake Gyllenhaal's godfather. Few are aware that the legendary Paul Newman is actually Jake Gyllenhaal's godfather. Newman was close to Jake's parents, so they asked him to be his and Jamie Lee Curtis's guardian. Although he wasn't a particularly involved godparent, Paul still played an important role in raising young Jake, teaching him how to drive when he came of age. According to Gyllenhaal himself, "I don't think I've ever met a more decent human being. It isn't every day someone has such an iconic figure as their mentor or guide growing up. What incredible luck for this Hollywood starlet." Many of his films have been preserved. Paul Newman was a sensational actor, and it's no surprise that 6 of his films have been commemorated by the Library of Congress as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. These honored pieces now form part of the National Film Registry. Notably, not all renowned actors possess any preserved films. However, Paul Newman's are Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sting, The Hustler, King, a filmed record, Montgomery to Memphis, Cool Hand Luke, and HUD. His final live role. DreamWorks' Road to Perdition was Newman's final major film role, garnering the actor an Academy Award nomination for his performance. But upon completing it, he declared that his acting career had come to a close. In 2007, Newman told ABC TV, "I'm not able anymore to work as an actor at the same level I wanted to. So that's basically closed off from me." Skills in the kitchen. Paul Newman and Sidney Pollack had an intense rivalry during the making of Absence of Malice. Both men considered themselves talented chefs, so they decided to have their star, Sally Field, judge their dishes. Each man tried to outdo one another by cooking her increasingly elaborate meals until she begged them for a reprieve from all this culinary competition and asked if she could simply go eat at a diner instead. He was hustled while making the hustler. In order to fully embody his part in The Hustler, Newman decided to learn the ins and outs of pool. As a result, he developed strong skills as well as a close friendship.